What touches me most about the book are the experiences that Lillian has gone through. A lot of times it is those testimonies that encourage us. When I know that someone someone I can relate to has had the same experience, then that's more encouraging for me.
Life changed for me and my siblings, especially my sisters, when we came to the Lord, because we were raised in a household where my parents, who are, I consider the most amazing people that walked this earth, my mother and my father, who both of them, they both passed away before I was 8. And I barely got to know them and to connect to them fully. I do have memories, but what I know is they were a presence. They were I don't even have the words to describe these people. They left such a footprint that by the time I was probably 10, there were a lot of my cousins and my nephews and who were named after them because they left a huge mark. And so as a kid, I didn't understand that. But right now, as an adult, I realize it's a legacy that they left. And so when they passed away, we were raised by a family member who was brought into the home to help us and to take care of things for us. And this person was not exactly the nicest person, and so it was challenging. It was difficult. I can laugh about it right now, but there were some rough days that we had there. And I can't begin to even describe some of the things we went through. It was not unusual to have ultimatums about, are you going to eat today? Are you going to sleep in this house today? And when we got saved, things got worse. When word got home that I was exploring the idea of becoming a worship leader, there were all these ultimatums about, if you go to church, don't come back, or there'll be no dinner for you when you get back, or it's funny, we had a watchman. We had a security guard, and this guy would be told, if she's not through those gates by 7:30 or 8 o'clock, it was random times, it was not no particular time, lock the gates. And so I had the dilemma, because those were sometimes nights when I was leading the worship in the night service, which started at 7 o'clock. So I would have to choose, am I going to lead worship and be a blessing to the people of God, or should I be thinking about where am I going to sleep tonight? That's not easy when you're a young adult. I was a teenager. I was like 16, 17. And it was a tough decision. And sometimes I chose to lead worship and I didn't have a place to sleep. That is an example of a storm. That was the beginning of storms that I went through, so that when I talk about daring to dance in the rain, I'm talking about having the courage to do something that's contrary to the expectation of your circumstances, because my circumstances were saying that I should quit, but the faith within me was stirred up to press on. And when I decided to write about daring to dance in the rain, I was thinking about, as a worship leader, dancing and worshiping and rejoicing and praising God is supposed to be consistent, not just for a worship leader, but for everybody, every believer in general. And I thought about rain. I thought about rain comes with every manner of storm we encounter. If you go through a hurricane, you go through a typhoon, you go through a tornado, you go through a thunderstorm, rain is always a common denominator in that picture. And so, as believers in the household of faith, everybody is usually going through a different kind of experience that is challenging to them, and that involves rain. Some people go through a drizzle, just a slight drizzle. Some of us will go through just pounding rain, pounding rain that soaks you to the skin, or a hurricane or a tornado. And I'm fascinated by rain, because when we talk about a hurricane, you get warning that it's coming, and they tell you need to evacuate because it's spinning and it's coming and it's making. Then they talk about the eye is going towards Miami. It's going towards a particular place. So you have time to prepare for a hurricane. But when we talk about a tornado, especially people who are in the Midwest of the United States, a tornado does not give you warning. You have 2-3 minutes to hunker down. And storms are different. Some of us in the Christian walk have warnings about something is coming. I remember a few years ago, I had a friend who was my best friend since the 4th grade. And this is a storm that hit me instantly. And she and a few of my friends came to visit me. I was in graduate school. I was working on my doctorate. And they came to visit me, and we hung out. We had a wonderful time. And then they came back to the Northeast, to the Maryland, Virginia area. And the following week we were scheduled to be at a conference, a women's conference, and I was going to be leading worship because at the time I was already a worship leader. And as I was on my flight about to land in Richmond, Virginia, I remember she was in a head-on car accident and she passed away. And when I landed in Richmond, somebody called me, one of the ladies who was a leader at the conference where I was going to, and told me I was waiting for my luggage, the conveyor belt, the baggage claim at the airport, and she called me and she told me what had happened, and I was broken. I did not know how to process that. That was a lot. It was just, I froze, and I sat down even before my luggage came, and everything just stopped around me. Yeah, that was hard. And I was told a couple of ladies were gonna pick me up to take me to the conference, and everything stopped. I was just like, no, she didn't die. She was at my house last week. What do you mean she died? And so the ladies came and they took my luggage, and I was just going through the motions. My tears were flowing. I remember that much. And they took me, put me in the car, and we drove to the conference, and I was not bawling. My tears were just flowing, and I think they thought that I was just so moved by the anointing. I don't know. They didn't say much to me. They just let me sit there, and I cried, and I went to the conference. And we had nobody else to lead worship at the conference. I was it. And so when we got there, I got to my room, my hotel room, and I closed the door and I sank to the floor and I let the floods come. I wept. But then God just reminded me that she was in his presence instantly. Because what I hadn't shared before was the night before she passed away, she had been at a kesha, and she had been praying the night before she passed away. She prayed all night. And so God reminded me she was instantly in his presence, and that gave me peace. That did not get rid of the grief. It gave me peace. I got up, washed my face, and kind of freshened up and got dressed, and I wanted to go to the venue of the conference before everybody got there, because I needed to spend some time in the presence of God and just talk to the Lord. And so I went there and I lay myself at the altar and I wept and I prayed and I worshiped, and I just went through. I wept, I worshiped, I prayed, and something in me started bubbling. I was in the middle of a storm because somebody I loved dearly had been taken away and was in the presence of God. And I knew this was a storm. I knew this was, and it happened the day before a major conference was to start. And so I knew that the enemy would want me to quit. And I decided I was not going to quit.